much. Much appreciated.
How are you doing? You all right?
Good, Lee. How are you?
Good. So, obviously, probably a different sort of crowd that you're used to seeing. Anybody who doesn't know Jamie is massive in the fitness industry. I sort of stalked him a bit to try and get him to be my business mentor, and I ground him down over time, and he's absolutely changed my life. And without Jamie, I wouldn't see half as much as my family, Sienna. So I'm always indebted to Jamie. So nice that he's come on here. Best-selling author, speaks at 1,000,001 different events. Probably the most motivational person that I know. Recently, I went down to help him and support him doing a 24-hour box jump of Everest.
Technically, it was 22 hours, 18 minutes and 38 seconds, but it's close enough.
It felt like 24 hours.
It felt like 50 hours to you.
And honest, just watching Jamie do that, it sort of opened my mind up. Like I'm not a Jamie. I'm not my mind. Everybody's got different sort of minds. My mind could not cope with anything like that, but it opens up the possibility that I could be better. I could probably do a little bit more for me, what I think is achievable. But it was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. And it was literally doing 15 box jumps every minute for 22 hours, whatever. And hour 4 or 5, I was looking around the room, Jamie was getting a massage after every single minute. And I just thought it was physically impossible. And then hour 6, it was like as if it just started, and it was like that for the whole time.
Yeah, so, I think it was hour 9 was the kind of touch and go one. I think that was the holy shit. Am I going to be able to pull through this? But I think it came with experience, and it's exactly what you said there, Lee. I mean, the game is just being able to understand that your body can go past what it thinks it can.
Yeah.
And the only way you're going to be able to test that theory is to actually go through it. And I see a lot of bodybuilders, they do have this mindset because, the best bodybuilders aren't the ones that are most knowledgeable on nutrition and training. That, they're not, you don't see many bodybuilders with degrees, if we're being honest. And I can say that, of course, because I used to be a bodybuilder. But one thing that, that they're good at is suffering.
Yeah.
They're good at, the best bodybuilders, the best ones that suffer. And there's something powerful in the ability to deal with pain and suffering, because it enables you to really see your honest self. And that's kind of one of the reasons that I do these kind of things, because as you know, when you're deep into a prep and you're, you are struggling and suffering, it's quite self-inspiring. What I mean by that is that you have complete control over your nutrition and training and the outcome. And of course, the outcome is getting on stage in the best shape of your life, not necessarily winning the show. And that's where some of the best competitors, they become addicted to competing because of that challenge and because of the absolute control over what it is that they're doing. And that's kind of powerful because, when I say that I'm going to box jump Everest, you get the same as anything else. You get people doubting it's possible. You get people saying, how on earth are you going to do that? But you just do, and once you can see what you can push your body, it makes you think, well, hang on a minute, what else have I been slacking on here?
Yeah.
And a lot of it, as you said, it comes down to, physically showing people what's possible. So they kind of change their own mindset of going, I can do more.
Yeah. And obviously you've done a lot of mental things that normal people would look at and just think, there's no way that's possible. But for me, when you've done the backward running, I was watching, then sometimes you're going a bit slower and that, and I thought, well, yeah, that looks a bit more achievable. But with the box jump, I just thought, surely when your legs give up, it's more physical than a mental thing. But you've obviously not.
But no, it's a mental thing.
Yeah.
What your body is doing, and there's an actual theory on this, but what your body's doing is just sending signals to your brain to protect itself. When you burn your hand, it's your brain that's sending those signals to say, pull your hand away quick.
Yeah.
And you can learn to deal with those.
Yeah.
And you can learn to overcome those things. And as you say, it's like what normal people do. And the reality is I am a normal person. I don't ever look at myself as superior in any way. When people ask me, oh, how do you box jump Mount Everest? I say, well, firstly, I started with an hour.
Yeah.
And that hour was horrible. And then I went up to 2 hours, and that 2 hours was horrible. And then 3, and then 4 was horrendous. But the interesting thing about the 4 is the first hour was easy. And 3 weeks before that first hour was tough because that was the only hour I did.
Yeah.
So what's happening here is the law of specificity, specific adaptation to imposed demands. The basics is we get better at what we repeatedly do.
Yeah.
And it's just the ability to repeatedly do something that you probably don't want to do
Yeah.
I don't want to box jump fucking Mount Everest.
Most people would do that first 1 hour and see how hard it was and just give up, wouldn't they?
Yeah. Because unfortunately, what a lot of people do is that they'll do that first hour and then they'll times that first hour by 22, and then they'll think there's no way that is possible.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking, well, actually, you're going to go through a mix of emotions over these next 22 hours. You're going to have hours where you feel good. You're going to have hours where you feel bad. You're going to have hours where you feel like giving up. But it's just then kind of putting them in your brain and giving them a kind of a name.
Yeah.
And something that I love is watching Hell Week. Have you ever seen Hell Week with the Navy SEALs?
Yeah.
So very much when you look at Hell Week, you wouldn't think that it was possible because I think they get 2 hours sleep in 5 days and they're literally doing PT for 5 days solid. Runs, swims. They are literally doing it with little to no sleep. And the way that they get through it is they call it evolution. So what they do is like, that it's going to end, and that you're going to experience different things. And what they do is they put it in their brain of going, right, this is the next evolution. This is the next evolution. And it just allows them just to focus on one bit instead of everything else. During the box jump, when I was having that bad hour 9 to 10, I wasn't thinking of the other 14 hours I had to jump. I was just thinking of going, right, you just need to get through this 1 hour. Yeah. And then at the end, you've got about 10 minutes then to sort that out, reset your brain and let's go again. And that's all if I was just focused on the 14 hours, I probably would have given up, but I was just focused on getting that last 38 rounds in before I could sort out whatever niggle I had in my leg. And that's what you need to kind of do with life. I think the reason that people are getting so overwhelmed in this pandemic is that they are thinking that it's never going to end. They're thinking, oh my God, and this is where a lot of people have problems with their mindset, and that is that, they're very impatient. They're like, oh, I want to go and do all the things. And I'm just like, well, you can't do all the things for now. So let's look inside and look at the things that we can do now. Look at the benefits and the positive things that have come out of this rather than the negative, and then just focus on the here and now.
Yeah.
And it kind of I'm trying to remember this quote, but it was something like, depression is caused by looking too much into the past, and anxiety is caused by looking too much in the future. And happiness is formed from looking into the now, or something like that. And it was quite powerful, where a lot of us focus too much on what's happened to us or where we want to be eventually, instead of thinking, well, where am I now? What have I got? And what, most importantly, have I got to be happy about?
Yeah.
It's like any emotion. If you wake up, it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you wake up in a shitty attitude, it doesn't get better, because you reflect that shitty attitude on everyone around you, and then it bounces back on you, because then everyone gets shitty with you. So it's kind of counterintuitive if you're feeling shitty to actually focus on being nice to people, actually focus on helping people, because actually that helps you.
Yeah.
And whatever you look for, you tend to find. So if you look for the negative all the time, you'll find it. If you look for the positive all the time, you'll find it.
And I think with that, like the whole world's against us with negativity, really, isn't it? Like I used to come down to Grenade with you every month, and it was like I was charged with all these positivity particles. And by the time I was getting up north, and I'd probably have like a week where I'd get loads of stuff done. I was loving life, I'd all it, and then everybody sucks it out of you over the time. And I was like sort of coming down to you to get charged up once a month. But I guess it's whether you let them do that.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to. Environment dictates performance, as you know, and if you are constant, it's very hard to be positive in a negative environment. But then it's just being able to have control over that. You know, a lot of people say to me, "Oh, who was your business mentor?" and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, I live in Bognor Regis. This is where old people go to die. It's a beautiful place, but there's no entrepreneurs, there's no business, there's no, you know, and there's nothing down here like that. So I've had to rely on audiobooks. I've had to rely on, you know, all the good things that you can absorb from the internet. And that's how I've managed to get where I am today. It's just from doing the work and reading the books and actually probably switching off from most of that negative stuff. You know, I don't follow many people on social media. I only follow things that are going to, you know, level me up. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. I mean, as with anyone, you know, during a difficult time like this, you tend to gravitate towards some negative stuff because it gets your brain fired up because you're all exciting drama, and people love it, unfortunately. But then they don't think, well, actually, is this serving me? And the answer is no. So it's just like, right, okay, let's really keep on top of that. And the best way, and it's exactly what Dan said before he left, is to write shit down.
Yeah.
One thing that a lot of people think is like woo-woo shit, like getting joss sticks out and hum music, is writing things down and just journaling your thoughts. And it's not hard to do. I mean, I've got this thing in my book called the Meltdown Management Scale, and it literally takes you 2 to 3 minutes to do. And it's just basically putting down 4 things: health, wealth, productivity, and connectivity, and rating yourself out of 5 for each one. Yeah. So health, of course, you're looking at nutrition, training, you know, have you exercised today? Have you eat healthy today? Rate yourself 1 to 5. Wealth, we're not just talking about, you know, how much money you've got in the bank. We're talking about social wealth. Wealth is actually, the actual word comes from a word called weal, which means well-being. So wealth is well-being. So have you connected with people? Have you, you know, interacted with people? Have you been social today? And social media isn't really social, funny enough. Yeah. Productivity. Have you got your boxes ticked? You know, have you got, you know, I will write literally, that is I'll have a list in front of me like that of 3 to 4 things which I need to get done for the day. And I feel productive if I see all of those with ticks on. And it's not hard. I'll probably get more than that done. But it's only, I maximally say 3 to 5 things that I need to get done with work to see progress.
Yeah.
So that is productivity to me. And then connectivity. Who have you connected with today on an emotional basis? And the reason I create this kind of, and it's just marking it 1 to 5. And the reason that I did this is because I was kind of ticking 5 health, wealth, and productivity. And then I was probably 1, health, wealth, and productivity, but I was actually 1 on the connectivity. I was shit at connecting with people. I was like a robot that was just ticking boxes and getting stuff done. So that's one that I've always had to work on. And now, if you're doing it daily, you kind of check yourself before you wreck yourself, because if you say you're getting a 2 or a 3 in the health box, you know that you need to prioritize that the next day.
Yeah.
And it's just keeping tabs on things, and it's a very simple process to do, because it's only, you know, how long would it take you to mark, you know, 4 things out of 5 a day?
Yeah,
it's an easy thing to do.
I think people just think it's harder than what it is, don't they? And
easy things are hard to do.
Yeah, yeah.
And the reason I'll give you an example, like how long does it take you to pay a water bill if it's not direct? You know, like you get that bill in, right, that you know will take you 2 minutes,
Yeah.
but you wait, what, 3 weeks or until you get the final note or something like that. And the reason being is it's because it's easy to do.
A
Because
good,
it only takes 2 minutes, you don't value it.
yeah.
And you don't value easy things. If you've got a big task, you know that you need to take it more seriously, and then you literally plan it out better. But that's why I say easy things are hard to do.
So a good example of this, when I think the last time I come down to see you, I went through, is it Dartford Tunnel or something like that, and I got,
Yeah,
you're meant to pay £2.50 within 24 hours online.
yeah,
Uh,
that's wrong. Yeah,
Me being a northern idiot, like I thought if I go through a toll bridge, it's a little thing where you put money in and go. Because I wasn't there, I thought it was a freebie, and I got a letter through saying I needed to pay £2.50. So I never, and then I got another letter, and I ended up, bailiffs come round to my house and I had to pay £600 for that £2.50 ticket. So I know exactly what you mean there, and that would have
yeah.
took me seconds.
But you know what? But here's the great thing that we spoke about, which is a great example of that, Lee. When we talk about small things done consistently turn into big things,
Yeah,
that can be both a positive and a negative.
yeah,
Because if we do 7 pull-ups a day, like if I do 7 pull-ups a day in a year, I've put the same volume of a Boeing 747 jet in my back.
yeah,
So that's going to see progress. But if you don't pay a £2.50 bill, that's going to turn into a 600. If you don't just watch your nutrition on a daily basis, you put £15 on in a year.
yeah, yeah.
And this is why you need to kind of like have this mentality of, right, it's easy. That's easy to do. So do it now.
Yeah. So obviously, a lot of these guys have never even been to a gym before. So from a mindset point of view, is there any tips that you can sort of give them as a beginner? Obviously, we're not open yet, but to get started now, and then once the gym's open, so a few little tips.
Yeah. So make it, I mean, one of the books I've got here, Atomic Habits, is make bad habits difficult to do and make easy habits easy to do. Make good habits easy to do. And how can you make the gym easier to do? There's a few things you can do. From a mindset point of view, understand that when you walk in a gym, you think that everybody is looking at you. But think about this. You're walking into a gym thinking everyone's looking at you. Everybody else is walking into that gym thinking that everyone else is looking at them. So basically, all you've got is a load of people in a room looking at others thinking that they're looking at them.
Yeah.
So no one's looking at you. No one's judging you. Everyone's too focused on their own shit. You know, most people in their head, they're thinking, oh shit, you know, I've got, you know, someone's lifting weights and thinking, shit, I've got to pay that £2.50 bill, else it's going to be 600 quid. That someone else is thinking, oh fucking hell, I've got, what we're going to have for dinner tonight. Someone else is thinking, oh crap, this, that, and the other. And what you realize is no one's special. No one's thinking of you. So go in there with that knowledge that no one's staring and looking at you, because that's one of the biggest fears of people is being judged. You're not being judged. And that's the most important thing to get through. Secondly, accountability is important. So if you feel uneasy about getting into the gym, have a battle buddy, you know, go with somebody, because that's going to make it a lot easier. Because if you are relying on somebody else and they're relying on you, then you can rely on each other then to make sure that they get to the gym. And a good thing to do is maybe put some skin in the game. Skin in the game helps. And there's 2 ways you can do that. Firstly, you know, I know, Lee, you do your challenges. So some skin in the game will help with that, of course, because, you know, we're very much motivated by 2 things: seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. And there's nothing more painful than losing out on money. So put some skin in the game for that, or place a wager with a friend who wants to get fit too, where you say the person who loses £10 first or £15 first gets to keep the money, or the person who goes 3 to 4 times a week for the next 3 months, you know, this, that, and the other. So create some rules and create a challenge. I mean, if some of you might not be in the gym, but some of you might have like an Apple Watch or a Fitbit, and you know that when you do challenges and Sally from the office is just beating your step count, you're pacing around your bedroom trying to beat her. And that's where gamification of fitness is so important. Set some challenges, set some goals, and have some competition, some healthy competition, not like who can get the most shredded, more of, have it more realistic, but also challenging where there is an outcome-based goal. And that can help a hell of a lot.
I think it's very interesting that you say about the skin in the game, because like I've had a lot of people come onto my page, and every time I'm sort of advertising lean, it's like, oh, I really wish I could afford this, but like I'm living by myself. I've got 3 kids. And some of these people I reach out to and say, look, you've commented on a lot of our stuff. You've shared a lot of our stuff. So I'm going to put you on there for free. They never do it because it's free. All the ones who pay for it get good results. The few that I've let on there for free, they're not invested in it. So they don't bother doing it. So yeah. I think that's a massive one, that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, free can be an incentive from a business and marketing perspective, but we don't value free.
No.
We place value on things, and sometimes we incorrectly place value on things. But as soon as you pay for something, you listen more, you apply more, because you don't want to waste that money.
Like I found this when I was business mentor. When you were my business mentor, you had people who were working in your own facility that had that for free, and it was on the doorstep and they weren't coming up. I was travelling 9 hours from Cumbria, stopping in a hotel, and I was there every single day, and I couldn't get my head around it. But again, it was free. It was on the doorstep. They didn't value what they had.
Yeah, and there were some guys struggling in there. You know what I mean? Yet they had open tickets to all of my training mind seminars, had the ability to knock on my door and ask for help.
Yeah.
For people, it's strange. It's what people do. I mean, one of the biggest problems, I think, is that people are afraid to ask for help when they're struggling.
Yeah.
So this isn't just from a business, from a business perspective, the worst thing you can do is not ask for help, because if you let ego and arrogance get in the way because somebody's doing better than you or somebody knows more than you, then you're not going to know or do anything. And it's be willing to learn from others, which helps you progress, as you know. But also, a lot of people, when it comes from a mental health point of view, and I think probably more prevalent, well, it's prevalent in the UK, but very much prevalent up north as well, where you are, is that you've got that big hard northern guy that doesn't ask for any help, but needs to ask for help.
Yeah.
A lot of people, one of the biggest kind of puzzles to unlock is your own mind. And the more that you do some deep work on yourself to realize your strengths and weaknesses, the stronger you'll be.
Yeah.
It's when you ignore things and you think you can cope, or you're too embarrassed that you're struggling, that you think people will take the piss out of you, etc., etc. That's when bad things happen. And unfortunately, a couple of weeks ago, lost a bodybuilder in the UK.
Yeah.
And it's terrible, because I don't suppose he asked anybody for help, and nor would he have wanted to. And I think that's the problem with a lot of people, is that they think it's weak to ask for help, when in actual fact it's strength. Because if you're asking for help and that person has got the solutions to your problems, then your life gets better. You get happier, you get richer, you get stronger.
Yeah, and I think it was sad. Like, obviously, we just see people on the social media, and every time he was on his social media, he looked happy. He was having a laugh and a joke. And I guess you just don't know what's going on inside people's heads. And this is one thing that I'm trying to do now. I used to just judge people on how I would deal with the situation. Whereas now, if someone's not doing something, I think, look, what's going on in their own lives? Have they got something on? What's the reason they can't do it? So again, when you see kids running amok in town when we're not on lockdown, and people's tutting, and you don't know whether them kids have got autism, and there's a lot going on.
There's many. I mean, it's very easy, because you instantly, it's basically with your brain, it's something called a heuristic. So basically, you haven't got time to work out everything. So that's why you make snap decisions, and those snap decisions aren't going to go away.
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of people say, oh, those kids. And then I like, because we have kids down like our alleyway smoking weed and this, that, and the other, just like any other person. And then, you know, the missus will complain. I'm like, yeah, but that was us. When we were kids, we were worse. We were getting hammered in, hammered in the church and shooting pigeons off the, you know, we were little shit.
Yeah.
And I think, well, hang on a minute, let's just rewind to little shit, you know, 13-year-old Jamie. What would you be doing on lockdown? I know what I'd be doing. I'd be out on the bikes with my mates, not really listening to lockdown, not really caring about it, because kids are like that.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't really have much of a conscience as a kid. I didn't care.
No.
And sometimes you need to kind of put your shoes in other people's, your shoes in other people's feet, your feet in other people's shoes. And until you've walked a mile in somebody else's, you just don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And
I think it's easy to judge it. Like,
yeah,
when I remember when I was 10, so it was last year in junior school, and we were on a school trip. We were on a picnic bench, lovely surroundings, and I decided it'd be a good idea to get on the picnic bench and wee on the last sandwich boxes. So I just got up and I just pissed all over these lasses' sandwich boxes. And like, if Olivia come home and said somebody 10-year-old that got up and pissed in her sandwich box, mental. And when I think back and think, yeah, like imagine me in this lockdown. You're absolutely right.
Pissing on sandwiches.
Yeah. Honest, like, yeah. And I go into a lot of schools and talk to kids and stuff about my past and how I've sort of got a bit better. And I'm looking at some of them and thinking, would I have even listened? Like, I think it's hormones, isn't it? It's like, would I have, and maturity. It's like,
and would I? And I've asked myself this: so would I listen to myself now if I was at school? And I don't know. I mean, I remember police came in to talk at our school, and we were wrapping up herbs in cling film and throwing them on the floor, and you just think like you know, it's hard to get through to them. But I think when people know your background and, you know, kids like cool stuff to know that someone was naughty and stuff like that, because it has perspective.
Yeah.
And that's where they get a lot of, you know, reformed people have been to prison to go and talk at schools.
The only person I ever listened to at school was a guy who killed somebody. And when you think back, it's like we've probably had awesome engineers in, politicians, like loads of really good people. And I listened to somebody who killed somebody, and I can remember my ears just pricked up. And like when you look back now, like I always start my talk telling them about what I did at their age, and it just instantly engages them. And then you can tell them and try and convince them to be a bit better.
And it's give people what they need. Oh, sorry, give people what they want, and then you can give people what they need.
Yeah.
And this is just from a basic marketing perspective. I mean, and that's all, you know, essentially that's what you're doing with these kids when you're walking into the school. You're marketing to them.
Yeah.
Because you want to market a message that can help.
Yeah.
And you know, people think marketing's a bad word. Marketing's incredible, because if you become good at it, you can have serious impact on other people's lives.
Yeah.
And of course, as with any kind of superpower, it can be used for good and bad, but using it for good is incredible. And knowing what kids' problems are is the fact that you need to prick their ears up. So sometimes you need to go to extremes first for them to listen, and then tell them what it is that you want them to hear. But it's same with anything, you know, like with Instagram, with social media, you know, this is why we talk about stories. Because if you see a guy who looks in pretty good shape, and you know his story is that he's lost 200 pounds and this, that, and the other, when the next time you see that picture, you'll be more inspired because you know the story.
Yeah.
And this is why I always say to people that you should always share your story. And people don't, you know, they just post and talk, and they wonder why they're not connecting with people.
Yeah. And that's what I like about your second, like your first book was very sort of well written, focus driven, getting you going. But your second book was telling your story of, like, because people look at you, you've got you're on social media every day. It looks the perfect life. You're a good dad, but you've had to get to that point, and your book sort of tells your story about not so good times and what you got from it. So I think everybody, like if someone like you who can go through that and share your experience, it sort of gets you. It does get you fired up a bit.
Yeah, it gives you perspective, because one thing that I loved was listening to Tyson Fury's interview with Joe Rogan.
Yeah,
because he was talking about if the heavyweight champion of the world can fall into a depression, it can happen to anybody.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think, unfortunately, like as Dan's very nice outro to me before he left, and it's like, find that fast. I find that funny, and I know Dan's joking all the time, but a lot of people will put me on a pedestal and go, "Oh, look, he does all this and does all that," and I'm just like, well, firstly, there is no pedestal. I failed all my GCSEs in English. I think I got about 3 GCSEs, like, I don't know, like D's and F's or whatever.
Yeah.
And the only reason I joined the army at 17 is because I probably would have gone to prison. I was sneaking into pubs and drinking like pints of gin and shit like, I was leading down the wrong path.
Yeah.
And that's why I joined the military, and that's one of the best decisions that I ever made. But the whole point is I'm no different to anybody else. I've just been very fortunate to understand discipline from being in the military, and being very self-aware of my strengths and weaknesses, and then knowing that you can, as cliche as it sounds, you can pretty much do anything if you are aware that it can be done, and you give yourself enough time and you research and practice.
Yeah.
And anything that you kind of want to do, there will be somebody out there who's done something similar, or somebody who you can learn from to kind of skip a few chapters and get better straight away.
Yeah, and I keep saying this to all my coaches. Obviously, they're all terrified of going live. They're all terrified of videos. And I was like, look at Jamie's old stuff. Like, when you first showed me your stuff, like,
horrendous.
Yeah, we just see the end product, and everybody is sort of based. I want to be like Jamie, but Jamie 10, 12 years on from where you started. And
it's the comparison, a lot of people say they're shit at live video, but they never do it.
Yeah.
So a year from now, you'll still be shit. And you've got to get through that uncomfortable feeling of going live, in the knowledge that maybe 1 or 2 people won't. You might even go live and nobody will see it initially.
Yeah.
But what we're doing is, and this is the most important thing with anything, live stream, social media, anything, you need to be focused on the habit rather than the outcome.
Yeah.
Because if you're just focused on doing a live to get views, or doing a live to get more clients, or doing a live to, boost your social media, then you're not going to be consistent with it, because you're not going to get that feedback, and it's going to take a long time to do. So what you need to focus on is committing to doing a live every single day without fail.
Yeah.
Do it for 30 days. Because if you do it for 30 days, you can look back and there'll be lots of things that you will learn from the live. 30 lives, looking back, you'll see what got the most views from your analytics. So what people tuned in to listen to and watch. You'll get a bucket load of comments and questions, which you can then turn into content. And you will see a massive improvement in your confidence. You'll make lots of mistakes and you go, oh, I did that, so I'll do that this time. And you will get more likes, follows, and views. That's the byproduct of being consistent.
Yeah.
But unless you challenge yourself, and an example of this was, I always wanted to do, about 18 months ago, I've always said to myself, oh, I want to do like early morning sea dips. I want to do cold showers. I want to. And I must have been saying that for about 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, right, I want to do sea dips. This is the year of sea dips. And this was, must have been, last year, 2019, I think it was, yeah. And I was like, right, this is going to be the year of sea dips, but I want to work my way up to that. So I've got to start with the cold showers. I'm like, oh, fucking cold showers. And I was like, right, the only way I'm going to do this is commit to doing one every day for 30 days without fail. The first one was horrible. The second one was horrible. The eighth one was horrible. The ninth one was horrible. But I still did it. And then really, really weirdly, day 14, what I'd normally do is I'd do like a minute under the cold shower and then switch it to hot. But day 14, I didn't even switch it to hot. I just went straight in a cold for a minute and I didn't switch it to hot. And then I was like, Jesus Christ, that wasn't that bad. And then suddenly, like day kind of 15 to 18 to 20, they were easy.
Yeah.
And a funny thing happened. I got put in a hotel room. It was the shittest hotel ever. Didn't have any aircon. It was boiling hot and then no hot water. But I actually smiled because I was like, I'm just literally day 31 of my cold shower challenge.
Yeah.
And there's no hot water. And it didn't bother me because I've just been doing the cold showers.
Yeah.
So it was amazing to see that adaptation. And then that's where it transitioned into the sea, which, to be honest, you might as well just go for sea dips because they're two totally different experiences. But if I hadn't committed for 30 days and maybe only done 8 or 9, I wouldn't have seen the benefit in it.
Yeah.
And so many people, one of the questions someone will always ask me, what's the benefits of cold water? I'm like, unless you commit to do it for 30 days, you won't know. I can sit here and talk about the physical and psychological benefits, but unless you go through it and do it yourself, nothing's going to happen. And that's important because you need to experience things, not just listen from others. There's a great YouTube video by the Shaolin master.
Yeah.
And it's a story of this guy that wants to climb up this mountain, and going towards it, he keeps asking people who are coming down the mountain, oh, what was it like? And listening to their experiences. And over about 3 hours, he spoke to 30 people and didn't bother climbing the mountain himself because he didn't feel that he needed to, because he'd heard everybody else's story about climbing the mountain. And that's so much like people.
Yeah.
You know, they live their life through other people's feedback, reviews. Oh, don't do that, it's shit. Or that's pointless. And this, rather than going, well, you don't know until you try yourself and you commit to doing it, whether it's for you or not.
And I think there's a lot of fear in it, like, isn't there? Because obviously when I started live videos, I was shitting my pants, but you made me do it, and it's like, get into it. And now, like, I'm absolutely fine. And I realise I'm going to make mistakes. I'm probably not the most fluent. I've got my daft Cumbrian accent, but I don't give a shit now because I've done it so much. The sea dip, and I seen you do that, I thought, that looks really cool, you know. I'm going to go do it myself. And I got down there, and there's quite a few people around, and I thought, what are they going to think of me if I start stripping off and I'm walking into this city? And I just didn't do it because of what other people would have thought.
Yeah. And also, like, what would have happened, and I'll tell you, would have been the thought process.
Yeah.
You have someone walk down, what's that knobhead doing? Look forward, and then carried on their day and spoke about all their problems.
Yeah.
And that's the only passing thought. It would have been, look at that knob. Oh, hang on a minute. Let me just research this person and let me go down and talk to him and tell him how much of an, you know what I mean? These things don't happen. They're passing thoughts, but also you're allowing, you know, one of the things that I said a few weeks back is don't allow feelings to affect your future.
Yeah.
And that same feeling that you felt there is the exact same feeling as somebody has when they walk into your gym.
Yeah.
And that is very important to remember that feeling, because people who are walking into your gym feel exactly the same. And there was always a thing I recommended coaches do. And I think you might have heard me say it before, but I said, if you want to really be able to empathize with people going into a place which you know very well, because of course, if we've been going to the gyms for decades, we forget what that feeling is like of first going to a gym.
Yeah.
Go and sign up for something like taekwondo or jiu-jitsu or something where you are literally walking in, there's people rolling around and doing stuff that you have no fucking clue, and you are a complete amateur. That feeling that you have there and then is exactly the same as people have in your gym.
Yeah.
And learning to understand that better will enable you to like have a much better kind of welcome to people and understanding of people. And one of the best things about that is if you felt awkward and you walked into that place and somebody calmed you down, everyone said hello, and it's this kind of thing where kind of, I think, dojos and things like that, everyone has a kind of a mutual respect. So, everyone's kind of welcoming, whereas sometimes a gym facility isn't. So to have a process in where if you see us, and that's why I used to have at Grenade Fit, if you see a stranger that you don't know, go and introduce yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
And people used to do that all the time, and they're like, this place is unreal, because we didn't have that much footfall, which we could, we made sure we didn't have much footfall going through, but everyone knew everyone, and everyone said hello to everyone, and everyone knew their names.
Yeah.
And that's important, because that will actually, from a marketing and business perspective, increase your retention and get more clients, because they're walking in and they're feeling good and they're staying.
Yeah, that's massive. I went to yoga when you told me about this, and again, it's full of elderly women, and I still felt intimidated. And to be fair, I nearly killed one of them when I was doing a headstand. So, I think they felt intimidated after that. But yeah, I've done that comedy, stand-up comedy as well. And obviously, I'm okay stand up in front of people, talking in front of people. But to try and be funny with it as well, that was like a different level.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying to Anna last night, I said, like, probably the hardest thing which has been done by the most intelligent people is comedy. Yeah. Because obviously doing stand-up, when you're doing a public talk, most people who are listening want to listen.
Yeah.
And want you to do well. But an actual comedy stand-up, you have an opposite, because people want you to be bad and they want you to fail.
Yeah, definitely.
And if you can get very good at being in a situation where everyone wants you to fail and you succeed, and also fail too, because you learn what not to do. I mean, most comedians, they will go to smaller places to test new content to see how it is. And it's very much like social media, like you put stuff out there to see how it's responded. And if it's good, you keep it in your routine. Yeah. And if it's bad, you leave it out. And that's what comedians do. And that's why when you see a finished product of a 2-hour, like a Ricky Gervais or something like that, you're like, that was next level. And it's because it's taken a long time to test things to get it out there. And that's why,
unfortunately, I read that before I'd done my stand-up piece. People like Ricky Gervais were getting up and the whole crowd was just silent after a joke. And I was thinking, fuck it, like, that's their job. And now I have to do it. But it went really well. I sort of talked about our IVF journey, and because it was, she said I wouldn't talk about stories. I wouldn't do stories, just do one-liners. But for me, I think I'm more of a storyteller. And it went really well, and I enjoyed it. But I remember the very first meeting that I went to, and I sat down, and I was pretty confident. I'm a pretty confident guy. I sat down, and they all started talking about comedy, and I love this type of comedy. I love this type of comedian. I've been writing jokes since I was 8, and I'm sat there and I'm thinking, I don't know any jokes. I only know 2 comedians because they're on League of Their Own, and I don't know any styles of comedy. And like, I left wanting to cry, because I was thinking, I'm going to actually be the worst person in that room. And then I ended up being pretty decent at the end, because I practice but that first session, that's how people must feel when they're going in the gym.
Yeah, because they're looking at you with your physique, and they're like, well, I can't see me ever getting that, because and they're not looking at the process that it takes to do that.
7 years of going to the gym.
Yeah, exactly, to look like that. But also when they look, I like this comedian, I like that comedian. Some of them have committed decades of their life to comedy and writing, and also putting shit out there which didn't stick, getting booed off stage, being laughed at, and things not working. And it's the same with everything else. Like we learn lessons from our mistakes. I mean, I've made plenty. Who would have thought you jumping on a scooter around your gym would have been a very important lesson. And there's lots, you could probably write a book on the things that you could take away from that experience because you probably learn so much from it.
Yeah, and to be fair, looking back, getting a 50-mile-an-hour electric bike, that was never going to end well at some point, was it? But in hindsight, it sounded like a fantastic idea at the time. But again, I appreciate stuff now. I got more time at home with Sienna. Obviously, I couldn't really do much, but I just took the positives out of it. And everyone was like, how can you be so positive about a situation? But obviously, there's a lot of negatives, but I was just focusing on the positives of, obviously, I had to, or I'd have cracked up. But like you said, a lot of people just focus on the negatives rather than everything's got a positive in it. No matter what the situation, it's like I'm seeing a lot of Sienna now. She's 2-year-old. She's like your little fella. They're like sponges. So they've got mum and dad at home all the time. She's absolutely loving life. I've got a nice garden. The dogs are getting walked more often. So there's lots of positives. Obviously, my business is closed, but we're doing stuff behind the scenes to make the business better when people open. So yeah, there's loads of negatives, but we're just concentrating on the positives, and it gets you through these type of situations, doesn't it?
Yeah, and what gets me through everything is having quotes to go to, analogies to go to, because as I said before, I'm not an intelligent person. Like academically, I failed most of the academics, and a lot of it was just due to the way that I was taught. I'm not, I learn through stories, narratives, and quotes because it allows, when I want to find a subject that I want to know better about, I look for the person who relates that best. And I've got lots of kind of remote mentors that have taught me many different processes. But it's through those narratives and stories. And something that I always say to people during this time is that the same day you plant the seed isn't the same day you pick the flower.
Yeah.
And what we're doing at the moment during the pandemic is planting seeds and being patient, because if we do that work now, they will start to grow. And it's so important to do. A lot of people, unfortunately, during the pandemic will have stopped exercising, will have not been looking after their nutrition because they've got the ultimate excuse, perfect excuse. Everyone's in the same boat. But unfortunately, what's happened is when this does finish, and it will finish, you're in a worse place when you start, when we went into this, and now you've made the game even more difficult when we're out of it.
Yeah. And I think like Dan said before, obviously Dan, you've seen Dan's Instagram, he's starting to get back into things, eating a bit better, and you feel mentally as well as physically, like if I get leaner, my whole world is better. My relationship with Emma's better. I'm doing more with Sienna. I'm smashing my business. And like first 3 weeks, I won't lie, I thought I was on my holiday when the gym was closed. I was buying from a bulk buy, like cash and carry type of place. So I had 30 stone-baked pizza bases. So every night of the week, I had a stone-baked mozzarella pizza with pepperoni. They'd done tray bakes, so I was buying a tray bake, and I thought one bit of cake won't harm. I was having six cakes a day. So obviously, I put a stone on and a bit within 3 weeks. I had boobs. I felt awful. So 5 weeks in now to sort of getting back leaner, and I'm absolutely bouncing now. So it makes a massive impact on your mind as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, massively. When I start training, start exercising, start doing the things that I know I need to do, even though I don't want to do them, then things happen. And this comes down to having the discipline to do it. And this is the thing: if you are relying on motivation during this time to get things done, it's not a motivational time. Okay, it's not. No one's motivated to do anything. And if you are relying on motivation, then you're not going to be consistent. Discipline is doing things that you don't want to do and doing them anyway, regardless of how you feel, because actually the feeling after you've done them is what we should be focusing on. I hate home workouts. I fucking hate home workouts. Okay. I love going to a gym. I love training, and 2 reasons, lifting heavier weights, something I've done since the age of 13. And secondly, I get away from the madness in my house. So, it serves its purpose, but then having to literally work, eat, relax and train in the same place. Um, but I do them anyway. I don't want to work out, 2:00 this afternoon, but I'm going to do it because I know when I finish, I'll feel better.
Yeah.
And actually, if I'm just
join you as well, don't they?
There we go. And just committing to it, just committing to doing it. I know that I will feel better. And it's just so important, because when we do get out of this, you're not playing catch up. You're sitting there in your, your metaphorical flower bed, watching everything sprout up.
Yeah.
And that's so important, because a lot of people think that everyone's on pause at the moment, but they're not. It's like, it's weird. The first thing that kind of come into my head, have you ever played Mario Kart?
Yeah.
And Mario Kart, when you press and hold the A the right time, as soon as it goes go, you go.
Oh yeah.
That to me is a kind of a great kind of mind thought of, when the pandemic's over, it's as if you've been pressing that A down.
Yeah.
So as soon as everyone goes right go, you're fucking off.
Yeah.
Because you figured it out, the little cheat code that gets you ahead of everybody else, and it's actually what you practice in private, you're rewarded for in public.
Yeah.
So when we're back in the public, there'll be people that will leave their house with 12-inch beards, with a belly, and just out of shape and not in the good place. But then you'll have other people that have, looked after their nutrition. And here's the thing though, both people will have been experiencing this exact same feelings, but one decided to allow those feelings to affect his future or her future, and the other person decided and committed that they're not going to allow that feeling of not wanting to do things to affect their future. So they're the ones this is why they're ahead.
Yeah, definitely.
They're no different people. They're the same. Just one responded to it very differently.
Yeah, and like me and you has had a discussion about how our socials have been since. Like, I see a lot of people, especially gyms, they've just shut shop on the Friday, put a notice up on the social media page, we're closed, the government's made us close, and then you haven't heard nothing of them. Whereas with my gym, we've opened up, we've given free meals to the NHS, we've given $5,000 worth of hand sanitizer, we've now raised over $5,000 for the hospice at home. And the more, like I would go mad if I just went home, like put a notice on that we're closed, and went and sat at home and not being able to do anything. And I think for me, like, we always do a lot for charities, community and stuff, but when more people stop doing it, it shows up more that we're doing stuff. So again,
and people will remember that as well, Lee. When those people put their signs around, I'll be surprised if they have anybody to walk back in the door.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a strategy called strategy of premonition, and it's basically being a good human being. And when I started working with like Dan and Dexter, that Dexter was like, right, there's this strategy of premonition, and you do this. And I was like, well, that's what I've been doing for like eight years. And I think, like, when I started with you, I was a proper shit businessman, but I was a good human being, and I'd done a lot. And I think that's what's got me by in business for so long. I think if I hadn't have been given so much and helping people so much, I wouldn't have been in business for more than 12 months. And that, because when I started with you, I wasn't like all the little things that I should have been doing. I wasn't, but I was doing a lot of good. And now when we're closed, we've got 660 people still paying a monthly membership to support us. And that's not something I've just done this week. That's 8 years of doing stuff. So
yeah, and it's so important. Doing good things for others isn't a strategy. It should never be. It should never be something that should be planned.
Yeah, people can tell, can't they?
Yeah, I can tell. Like, I stole this quite yonks ago, but it was give and forget, receive and remember.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, around this, a lot of businesses and that is that they give and remember, And then they kind of chase you up in the fact that it's like, well, I've given you something, so you have to give me something in return.
Yeah.
And that's like, well, you've read too many books on persuasion and not enough on actually being a good human being, because there's no book on not being a bell end and just being good.
Yeah.
And you can see it a mile off. And I've always said, look, don't be a bell end and just do good for others, and understand that some people won't appreciate it, some people will. And some people take advantage of it, but don't change who you are as a person. Don't, I will trust everybody until they give me a reason not to.
Yeah.
And then once that door's closed, that's it. And that's just my own values and standards with things. But it does come back to bite you in the arse positively. Funny enough, yes, a couple of days ago, I had an email from somebody, and they'd sent me 150 quid on my birthday a couple of days ago, and I was like, huh? And what it was 2 years ago when I launched Mobile Video Mastery, there was a guy who wanted a refund because he said it was, it's not what he wanted in a course, and it was kind of weird because I was like, no, it's a bloody good course, so it's not. And then I looked at his socials and said that he hadn't implemented anything. And it's kind of like, you kind of get annoyed. You're like, well, this guy is asking for a refund. I can see he's been through all of the course, and he hasn't implemented. So what I said, I gave him a refund, and I said, you can keep your login details. I said, I've just had a look for your socials, and you should do this, and I gave him a bit of guidance, and he sent me an amazing email straight back, said that the email that I sent him brought him to tears. So 2 years later, obviously I'd forgotten about it, because I just do a lot of these things all the time, because I just spotted a situation where I could be a good human being. And he'd never forgotten about that moment for 2 years. And he's now doing well in business. So he was waiting for the perfect time to pay me back what he paid for the course. And it happened to be my birthday 2 days ago, which, and this is it, give and forget, receive and remember. I gave him a gift and completely forgotten about it. And I probably have given many people gifts over the years and forgotten about it. Most haven't repaid me, but every once in a while you get somebody like that who makes you realize that actually being a good human being pays dividends.
And that's hard, isn't it? Because obviously I've bought that course and I know it's awesome, and obviously the feedback that you got, it's a good course, and then someone says that, it's very easy to retaliate and say, no, you dickhead, I know for a fact it's good because he's said so, they've done this. And it's same with our lean. We've had a couple say, oh, it's not what I want. And I'm thinking, you've had the meal plans, you've downloaded everything, but you have to just take them at like face value and just say, right, that's fine if it's not for you. And 9 times out of 10, they just can't be asked. You know what I mean? We know the plan works. Same with your plan, it works, but if someone's not prepared to make it work, then it won't.
There's a quote in my so for those you don't know, like, it's my 35th birthday a couple of days ago, and every year I do a blog post about things that have helped me throughout the year, and obviously next year will be 36 things at 36 and what's not. And just for you saying that, there was one which I just want to say out. Let's have a look. So many. Oh, I've got so many now. Yes. Okay. So number 31. Sometimes being kind is more important than being right. Sometimes what people need is not a brilliant mind that speaks, but a human heart that listens and understands. And that's so important with anything that you do, especially social media, in life. Sometimes actually knowing that you're right and saying that you're wrong, just so that other person can feel better or feel that they've got the upper hand, is sometimes an incredible strength. To be able to let go of going, look, I know, like in your head, you go, right, I know I'm right, but this isn't the situation to do that, because I'm going to waste time trying to convince somebody who's not going to be convinced. And actually the solution here is just to end the conversation and let them win.
Yeah, and I've seen you do a lot of that.
Oh,
More,
yeah,
you used to just destroy them, destroy them.
yeah, and it was mainly because it's like, in a way, it was every now and again, but most of the time, it's just I used to do that just because people used to like reading the comments. But now I just haven't got the time. I've got two kids. I've got a very, very busy business and life. So I'm just like, do you know what? You win today. Here's all the, you're going to walk away feeling better, but also that's not going to have an impact on your life.
Yeah.
If you haven't listened to the thing that is going to help, and you probably never will. So I'm not going to waste any time. I'll just save that time and spend it on people who actually value it.
Yeah. And that's something I've started doing. Like, somebody had sent me something. These lots said this about you on Twitter. These lots said this about Instagram. And I would spend literally hours making a funny post to hammer them. And then I would spend the whole day watching to see if people comment. So now I've just said to my staff, I was like, if anyone slags me off, don't tell me. It doesn't hurt me. And I can use that time for doing positive stuff to grow the business. And it's took me 43 years to sort of figure that out.
Yeah, just think as well, like imagine how hard a job it is as a politician. I'd never want to be a politician or that, but you literally, no matter what side you're on or anything that you're on, you're going to have a whole group of people scrutinizing everything that you say and do, twisting it and using it against you. No matter what side you bat for. And if you allow other people's negative emotions, thoughts, and feelings to get in, then you've lost the game.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's so important to understand, because it's so easy to just type something on social media and put it out there. It's very hard to implement things and do things, because that actually implementing and doing things are the things that make changes.
Yeah.
Posting it on social media does fuck all.
No, I've learned that now.
And it's just so important. It's hard to do. And it's like anything, we bodybuild our bodies, but we don't bodybuild our brains.
Yeah.
And it's the same principles of stress and tension that you have to place on your brain. You need to test yourself. You need to practice the things. And then when you do that as a habit, it becomes natural. So for me now, if someone writes a long negative message to me, I instantly don't feel attacked. I feel empathetic. And I'm like, cool, that person has probably got the wrong end of the stick, doesn't follow me, is new here. And it's not up to me to waste any time trying to explain my case or defend my thoughts, because this is my channel, my platform, my thoughts. And if you fail to realize that, then that's cool. I just have a look on your socials. If you're not private, just find out maybe if you got a dog or something and just say a nice comment about something, or agree.
Yeah.
But
I know we've took a bit of time up here, so I'm just gonna have a quick look, see if anyone's got any comments. Fucking dogs and kids. Casey says she feels starstruck watching this, which is cool. Beth says, thank God Jamie hates home workouts as well.
Home workouts, man. Well.
Yeah, no, there's no sort of real comments, because they're probably just sort of digesting everything that you've said. There's a lot to take in. I say I've recorded these, so I'm going to send them all a little link so they can watch them back and, like you say, make notes, because it'll sink in a little bit better.
Yeah, so, and audio's key as well. I put the audio on so people can listen.
I'm going to stick some links to your books in as well, because I think they're really well written for this type of audience as well. And I think the more you can learn as you're starting, the better it's going to be. I know this Sunday's your family time and stuff, so I really appreciate you taking the time out to come and be a part of it. So we raised over $5,000 for our local hospice, which is amazing. And I know these lot will be absolutely chuffed that you've joined us as well. So,
and I just want to send some appreciation your way as well, Lee. It's been amazing to watch you grow over the last few years. It's always inspiring to see someone who just takes action.
Yeah.
And just applies themselves, because it's, you've seen time after time, making the effort to do things like driving 9 hours down to listen, and that has always served you well, and it serves everybody well.
Yeah.
Don't wait for things to fall on your lap. Don't wait for opportunities to knock. You just start fucking tapping on doors and knocking down walls, and things start to happen.
Yeah.
Go out of your way to find things, and you will find them.
Yeah, no, I'm glad I stalked you. Like I said, like your sort of changes that you made me week one, telling me to stop PT, you give me 50, 60 hours back that I can spend with Sienna and Emma. So the whole family's grateful for you. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thanks everybody.
Yeah, mate.